So I was all set to tell you about my plants, the plants that I'm going to grow this year. I've had such a hard time starting seeds this year. I think my seeds are old. I've got these very rare cannabis seeds that I've kept over the years that you can't get anymore. And anyway, they're old. I think a lot of them are not germinating. And then finally, I got some to germinate this year. I got 4 excellent seedlings, a banner, a lemon sour diesel, a Congo, and a Jack Harrer. And I went down this morning to see how they were doing, and they were gone. This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the Cannabis Goldsmith. They were gone. Mice. So this isn't going to be a show about jewelry today. It's going to be a rant about mice. What the fuck? This little mouse came in overnight and went up to my little hydroponic unit where I had two pak choys growing. They're still there. He left me the pak choys, the little fucker. Well, at least that's something. And he bit the tops off the 4 seedlings that I struggled to germinate. They were just little stalks. When I got up and looked at the little hydroponic unit, I was like, God, no, what happened? And then it dawned on me it was a mouse. So I went into the pantry to get some coffee to brew up a one of these French press of coffee thing, and I picked up the bag, the coffee bag in the pantry. And it was soft. Usually these bricks of coffee are quite, they're vacuum packed. They're like a brick. They're solid, right? This Italian coffee. But this was kind of spongy. And I looked at it and there was a hole chewed in the corner of the coffee. The mouse had like caffeinated himself last night. He chewed into this coffee from Italy, ate some of that, and then he was like high as fuck, wandering around the kitchen, and he ate the tops off my plants, my seedlings. What the fuck? Oh, man. And now it's Valentine's Day today. Thank you, Mouse, for this wonderful Valentine's Day gift. So it's Valentine's Day here, and I've still got some time. I can start some more seeds, but oh man, I got to build some kind of cage to put the hydroponic unit in so the mouse doesn't get in there and eat the seedlings again. Because then I'll be fucked. Because I need to grow plants in order to design the jewelry that I make, right? I grow 4 plants, as we can do by law in Canada. It's the law. So I have no plants now. Now, if worse comes to worse, I could probably, if the mice keep eating my seedlings, what I can do is get clones sometime in the spring from somebody. I can beg, and maybe somebody will give me some clones to put in the ground. But I don't want to do that. I want to grow my own seed, and the seed that I grow is seed that I've had for a while that I know and that I trust the seed houses that produced it, right? But now I had, as I said before, the seed is old and it's not, the seedlings are taking a bit longer to germinate. They're weaker. And then the mouse, boom, gone. Now, this is the feeling I guess people get when deer eat their crop or something. If they're growing outdoors and they wake up one day and it's all gone because like goats have fucking eaten it or whatever. God, that's the kind of feeling. It's not really anger because you can't really get angry at the mouse. I'm angry at, if I sound angry at all today, it's angry at at the circumstance, But the reason why the mouse came in, I know the reason why. For the last week, it's been like spring up here, and buds are on the trees, and the grass was starting to grow, and all the mice are like coming out from underground or wherever the fuck they live normally in the winter, and they're chewing on the grass and eating the buds. And then last night it started snowing and getting cold. So I'm pretty sure one of these mice is like, oh, fuck, look at that wood stove. Look at that little place there. You can see the smoke coming out of the chimney. Hey, look, there's a hydroponic unit with some pak choi. This is like Toronto, man. He's like looking at the big city, right? From the snowbank. And he came in, had some coffee, and then killed my fucking seedlings, the little fucker. You know what? I'm gonna have to deal with him. It's not revenge either. I'm not a vengeful person. I was when I was a young man. I could hold a good grudge. Like my mom was good at that, holding grudges. She could do it for years. But, there's not enough time to do it. And I don't hold a grudge against the mouse. I know why he came in. I mean, I can figure him out. I would have done the same. And this is not a kind of punishment I'm going to mete out to the little dude or dudess for eating my seedlings. Look, that's done. He's probably high as a kite now. He's like edibles, right? He's like kicking back, thinking, oh man, that like fucking, that Congo was amazing. Holy fuck. I can't wait till he plants more. But you know what? I'm going to make sure that you don't come and eat it again. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to build some kind of cage out of galvanized wire. My little kitchen counter is going to look kind of weird, I got to tell you. Anyone visiting will see a cage on the counter with a little hydroponic unit inside, an anti-mouse cage. Now, the mice, I live close to the wilderness here, so this is why there's mice. And they're not as bad as the mice, I hope, anyway, as my friend Nick, who lives up near Bancroft in a forest, now in the magical forest up there. The mice up there, holy fuck. Man, they eat through everything. They chew everything. They'll go through anything and everything. And they're all over. I mean, but they are in a forest. This is what they do. It's full on wildlife in a forest here in Canada. We have little critters and bigger critters, and all the way from like insects to grizzly bears, right? So the whole spectrum of animals in Canada in the wilderness is quite large. So I've got a mouse, that's to be expected. I live pretty close to the wilderness, and especially with the temperature changes, right? This weather has been so fucking bizarre. But in Canada, as spring approaches, we normally get, in Ontario anyway, a bunch of springs before we get the actual spring. We get first false spring, second false spring, the spring of deception. Other kinds of springs appear on the way to real spring. And no matter what the groundhog says, we get these false springs. And this false spring we had last week, it was great. It was like people were wearing like flip-flops and shorts and now suddenly there's snow on the ground, and the mouse is high on my seedlings. So today's mission was, today's mission was to be finishing belt buckles in the studio, but instead I'm going to have to order more seed, and fresh seed I think I will order. And hopefully it'll come in time, and I'm going to build a cage, put the hydroponic unit inside the cage, and it's just going to look hideous. But until the seedlings grow and they get big enough that the mouse, too big for the mouse to tackle and to deal with, then that's what I'm going to have to do. Man. Also, I'm going to keep my coffee in the freezer and not in the pantry. The mice, man. When I was publishing Tribe magazine in the 90s, I lived in Toronto in this And in the pawn shop district, if you've ever been to Toronto, you might know it. It's not really the pawn shop district anymore because it's all condo developments now. But there are a few pawn shops still there, I think. And it's at Church and Queen. It's at Church and Queen. And I lived in this top floor walk up above a pawn shop, a 3-story building. And on the top floor is where I published Tribe and I lived. It was a live-in studio space. And it had this amazing back deck. It was like fucking huge. It was like 50 feet by 100 feet. Like, it was on the roof of the building below. So in the summer, you could go out and lie on the deck, or, it was just great. But the place itself was tiny. It was like 300-400 square feet. It was absolutely minuscule. And with the amount of vinyl records that I had, like 10,000 vinyl records and computers and shit that I needed to publish the magazine, it was quite tight in there. But I had mice. Downtown Toronto is totally, there's mice everywhere. So this little studio space was like a mice infestation. I remember writing the column, the editor column, like at 3 a.m. I'd be there typing away and the mice would be running around in the flat. And I tried catching them. I never kept any food out. It was like, the mice were everywhere, right? They were just fucking all over the place. And I thought, maybe it was just one mouse. So how do I know if it's more than one? It could just be one. I was thinking maybe I should like spray paint one, just tag one. And that way I will know if there are more than one. And as I was trying to figure out ways to be able to count them. But suffice it to say, if you see one, there's probably more than one. So in an urban setting, in an urban environment. But anyway, I worked and lived in this space for like a decade. And with the mice, eventually we worked out a kind of compromise. It's like, okay, you keep it your side of the room and I'll keep it my side and we'll get along. And we did. But out here, it's different. Out here, this is a random attack, a random mouse attack, like in the middle of the night. I didn't even hear them. Well, they're quite quiet, actually. They're really small, too, these field mice. They can fit through like a quarter inch crack in the bottom of a door, a corner, or like through an electrical conduit, like hole in a wall or something. They can go through tiny spaces. So I'm not going to be able to keep them out. The beginning of the winter, I put up these ultrasonic alarms, right? I've got ultrasonic alarms. They're these little, they look like, they're little square things, and you plug them into the wall socket and a blue light on them. But they have an ultrasound generator in, and they send out ultrasonic waves that are supposed to keep away mice. Now, in every outlet in the kitchen, I've got these fucking things, right? Because I knew in the fall, look, they're going to be coming in the fall when it gets cold. They're going to see the wood stove burning. They're going to smell the wonderful curries cooking, and they're going to think, you know what? That's where I should spend the winter. So I thought, I get these ultrasonic alarms. They're supposed to be very good. I got them from a farm store in the neighborhood here. I bought a lot of them too, and they're in every single outlet on the lower level of this house. I figured this is where the mice are going to come in, right, on the lower level. So these ultrasound things are fucking blasting ultrasound. Yeah, it's lucky I don't have any high-end hearing range from years of DJing, because otherwise I'd probably be going mental with all the ultrasound in here. But I can't hear it. And obviously neither can the mouse, or maybe that mouse was hearing impaired last night, that he came into the kitchen and he had no idea there was like ultrasound everywhere. He just like, oh fuck, pak choi? Weed. And he chewed the things right off. The little fucker. Oh man. All right, so I got to get some, being a designer, and this is a show about jewelry, by the way. I'll get to it eventually for maybe about 5 minutes on the back end. But because I have to unload on the mouse here. Actually, by talking about it to you, my listener, I know there's only one or two, maybe 500. I have no idea. Because I'm talking to you, it's cooling me down a bit. I'm less freaked out about, the mouse now eating my weed. I'm still upset about it. Still a bit angry about the mouse, but I'm going to take positive steps to chase him outside or keep him away. Two things. I'm going to try and keep him away, and then I might even buy some mouse traps, old school, the wood ones. I don't like them though. I'd rather the mice stay away than actively hunt them down. I'm not that type of dude. I'm a pacifist, basically, when it comes to mice too. But I mean, in the hierarchy of things, the weed and the planting and the spring planting is of importance. So anyway, now I'm without weed plants to grow in the ground this year. So the upside of this is it leaves me some options. Now I can choose again what to plant and hope it comes out again. Either I can take, I have a few seeds, not many, left of my old classics that I've kept. I can try them, and as I said, they're struggling because they're old seed. Or I can order some new seed from some good seed houses and see what happens this year. So that's what I'm going to do. I think I'll do that. Order some new seed today. But anyway, I was going to talk about opals today. I was thinking about opals a lot, and I used to see opals all the time on people, on women mostly. I guess in the 70s I used to see them, in the 80s you would see them, and then suddenly they just disappeared. But the opals I'm talking about are these like white opals. They have like a white base color with some flecks of like opalescence, they call it. It's just like this flash, right? But the stones were always really quite tiny. They were tiny little cabochon stones in small rings. Not very impressive, but when you saw one, you knew what it was, right? And then I saw a couple of black opals. It's like a black base color with those speckles of other color on top again. And I started thinking about opals for some reason. So I thought, I wonder if we have opals in Canada. And sure enough, we do. We have opals in Canada, in BC. So I started looking into that and emailing people about it. Nobody got back to me by the time of this podcast. So I'll probably go into more detail about Canadian opals further down the road, and more into detail about opals generally speaking. But I was actually quite shocked to find out that we have opals here in Canada. We have a lot of gemstones here in Canada, and as a jeweler, it's great to be able to work with to have that kind of variety to choose from, a pantry of gemstones to choose from. But the opals are interesting. The most amazing opal I ever saw really is I was in Toronto in a jewelry appraiser's office, and there was a diamond there, a pink diamond, and that was worth a lot of money. I don't know, $1 million something maybe. And this woman was there, this Asian woman was there in the room, and she had this ring on, this opal ring set in gold, like 18 karat gold, a big black opal, Australian Boulder opal from Lightning Ridge. This is the place where all the best opals apparently come from, and the black opals. And this, you could see, it was huge. It was the size, the stone was kind of flattish, and the size of maybe a silver dollar. And then it was set all around. It was a big ring on her finger. But this opal, it had big flecks, not these little tiny dots that you see in the older, small, like white opals, like tiny little. This had like big flakes of color that that reflected in the room. You could really see it. Like I've never seen an opal like that. I've seen at trade shows and gem shows, I've seen opals, but I've never seen one like this before. And she was wearing it, and I commented on it, and she said, "Yeah, I made this, and the flecks were massive. The massive flecks of color on this ring." And generally speaking, that's the way to tell a good opal. The color is there, big color, big flakes of color, a background on black opals, a nice dark, deep background. And just so the color just blasts right off. Like an abstract painting. You look at it like an abstract painting. The brighter, the more intense the impact it has as compared to these tiny little dots making up the opalescence of the color. And these big flakes is what you want. And this was in this ring. And this is the best opal I've ever seen. But opals are interesting because now, they're found in Ethiopia and Australia, of course. Australia is well known for them. It doesn't seem to be an organized thing like some gemstone mining, like diamonds, where you have trade. Like they do have a trade association, but it's primarily like mining claims and people digging in the ground on their own. It doesn't seem to be very organized anywhere in the world. I read a whole bunch of mining claims from BC, British Columbia, in Canada. I was trying to get information on the opals in BC. They describe in one of these mining claims, they describe the whole opal industry. This is like a mining claim from the 70s. They describe it as kind of like just a independence. It's all independent people, and just hacking away at the ground, trying to come out with the best stone. It's almost like an obsession. There's like an obsession built into it. I guess like gold, the gold fever thing, right? It's the opal fever. But the thing is, opals are not the most expensive gemstone you can get. So that's why I wondered why are people mining these things? I mean, they look great, but not all of them look great. Not all of them look like the ones you would see if you Google opal and you see the first picture you see is going to be fabulous, right? Not all of them look like that. They look like shit, most of them, and they're soft. They're soft, They absorb moisture from the air. If you live in a place where the humidity cycles, like it gets from a humid to, in the rainy season, for example, to very dry in the dry season, the opals can crack and just like fracture because they basically breathe humidity in and out. This is how they are. And they're finicky and they're temperamental and there are all these things. So I wonder why are these people, risking their lives and going underground and like being hermits living out in the desert looking for this shit. It's almost like a gold fever type thing, I think, that opals do to people. That's the only thing I can describe. I mean, the turnaround on the mining, it probably isn't all that great, I don't think, unless it doesn't scale, right? There goes the snowplow. A lot of snow out there this morning. Opal mining doesn't scale. So I don't know. I'm going to do a whole show on opals. I'm still researching it. It was going to be today's show, but that whole mouse destroying my weight thing threw me. It threw me today. But I have to tell you, I feel so much better now having talked to you about the mouse and the opals. Anyway, opals, I'm going to reach out to some of my suppliers here in Canada to see if we can find a Canadian opal to use in something. See what they're like anyway. I've not seen one. I need to see one. Now, there are different, like the Ethiopian opals are interesting. But the funny thing is with them, you can tell the difference between them and Australian opals in the way they absorb water. You can get a glass of water, distilled water, and if you have a bunch of opals, and some of them are Ethiopian opals, and some of them are Australian opals, polished opals, you can put them in a glass of water and let them sit there for a while and take them out. And the Ethiopian opals will absorb water, and the color flash will disappear or diminish, and they become more transparent in nature. So you'll be able to visually tell them apart by the Australian opals. The Australian opals don't do that, and so maintain their flash, the color flashes and the brightness and all that stuff that they had even before you put them in the water. But the Ethiopian opals will not do that. Now I'm wondering, as a test, I mean, there may be a way to fool that as a test, but this is one of the tests of trying to determine opals from Australia or Ethiopia. Now, Canadian opals, I wonder what they're like. I'm going to find out more about that and bring that knowledge to you in a future episode. Anyway, I'm going to get in on the internet here and look for seeds. I think I'm going to try growing again a jack. I need that for myself, for my medical usage. For our osteoarthritis, it's a good day weed and good for creativity. But the rest of it's all open now, thanks to the mouse. I'm going to go into the workshop. Being a designer, I'm going to design myself an enclosure, like a Faraday cage made out of wire for the hydroponic unit. And take that, mouse. And then I'm going to get some old school wood mouse traps. As much as I hate it, set them up and catch this fucker. He might be a little bit, I don't know. Those seedlings, one of them was lemon sour diesel, so he might be still awake. Maybe not. I don't know how edibles affect mice, but anyway, he or she or a little furry critter, I don't want to use those mouse traps, dude, but I'm going to, I think, today. I've got some peanut butter. And all won't be lost because I'll put you outside. If I do catch you in a mouse trap, I will put you outside so a crow or some other animal can benefit from you. The circle of life. Anyway, that's it for me, the Cannabis Goldsmith this week. It wasn't really a show about jewelry this week. It was a show about mice. But yeah, I hope you'll indulge me. It settled me down. Just talking about the mice settled me down, so I'm going to get back and rebuild. You pick yourself up, you start anew. I was always taught that by my mom. So you pick yourself up and you start anew. If the mice chew off your fucking leaves, pick yourself up and start anew. How's that for an inspiration? The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. You can see what we do at tribe.ca. Send us an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Cannabis Goldsmith.